Hey, this is Kenny Mayne. This is not my podcast. I'm just the introductory voice doing a favor for an old friend. He somehow thinks this is going to help his success. We'll find out. I sure hope so, though, because I've known Keith Simons since we were like 10 or 11 years old. We played boys club football together back in Federal Way, Washington. Then we played against each other in junior high and high school. He went on to college. I went on to college. He went on to coach college and then tutor quarterbacks pretty much the rest of his life. And he got so deep and nerdy into the art of quarterbacking that he decided to start a podcast called QB Unfiltered. There will be far better quarterbacks than I as guests on this show, but I'm just here to say, listen, you might learn something.
This is QB Unfiltered. I'm Coach Keith Simons. This is Flashback Friday, recounting 50 years of playing and coaching football. Tonight, Saturday with Joe Montana. It's 2004. I've just completed my 8th season as the head coach at Santa Rosa Junior College in California. And in those 8 seasons, 5 times we have led the nation in passing. I'm pumping out great quarterbacks year after year after year. It's the off season. I'm in my office one day and the phone rings. I pick it up. Hello, Coach Simons, and woman's voice on the other end. Hey, Coach, this is Jennifer Montana. Joe and I were wondering if you'd be interested in working with our 2 sons, Nick and Nate, in quarterback technique. I'm like, yeah, I'd be interested in doing that. And so we set it up for a couple weeks down the road. And my big thing leading up to that day, that workout, was to keep it under wraps. I didn't tell anybody on my staff. I didn't talk about it with anybody up there at work, in the football office, in the weight room, out on the field with our players. The only person that I told this to was my wife, Stephanie. The last thing that I wanted was to have a bunch of my players or even my assistant coaches hanging around and trying to steal looks and just bug Joe and his family. So kept it under wraps and pulled that off, so I thought. So the day of the training session rolls around. It was on a Saturday, and the Montana family pulled up in their car, and the 2 kids got out, and Joe and Jennifer, and we walked into Bailey Field, the football stadium, to do the workout. Now, Bailey Field in 2004 was one of the coolest places to play junior college football in California. The field was natural grass. It was hybrid Bermuda. It was like you were playing on a pool table. It was pristine grass. But the thing that made it the coolest was the oak tree that was in the north end zone of the stadium. Now, this college was about 100 years old in 2004, and I'm not sure how long that tree had been there, but it was huge. And it was about 3 yards out of the back of the end zone. Big, huge trunk. And the branches on this tree covered the entire corner of that end zone and went out to about the 5-yard line. Well, I set up my drill work on about the 50-yard line, and I told Nick and Nate to grab footballs and start getting their arms loose. Joe and Jennifer walked down to that end of the field where the tree was, and they spread out a blanket underneath the tree, and they had their lunch with them. So they sat under that oak tree and chilled out and watched their 2 sons work out. Now, this was really a surreal moment for me. This was pre-Tom Brady, and Joe Montana was the man. He was considered at that time the greatest quarterback in NFL history. 4 Super Bowls. Joe Cool. He was the most rhythmic, sweet feet quarterback to play in the NFL. He was just like a ballet dancer in how he moved out there and his drops and how he threw the ball, just really smooth. There was nobody like him in the game. So to have Joe Montana there sitting under our oak tree 50 yards away, watching his sons work out with me was really a surreal moment. His sons, Nick and Nate, really great kids, uh, great attitudes. They were very coachable, very respectful. And the workout lasted about an hour and a half. And when we were done, Joe and I sat down in the stands and just had conversation for about 20 minutes. And we talked about the 49ers. We talked about Notre Dame. We talked about quarterback play. It was really cool to be able to do that. But while I'm talking to him, in my peripheral vision, I'm catching heads down to my left that are looking around corners, peeking up over fences, and it was my players. So word had gotten out somehow. And these guys were lurking down at the end of the stadium. And I kind of slyly given them one of these and one of those. And they did a great job. They stayed out of our way. But that was kind of funny. So Joe thanked me. We shook hands and they were gone. And what a great memory for me. You know, I've had a 36-year coaching career and had a whole bunch of cool stuff like that happen. And I had an opportunity to sit down and talk with three of the iconic 49ers as part of my coaching career in the state of California. So when I was a graduate assistant at Humboldt State in the late 80s, Steve Young came up to HSU to be the keynote speaker at a fundraiser we had. And for some reason, he came into the bar at the hotel where the fundraiser was, and I just happened to be there. And we bellied up to the bar, and I think he had a water, and I had an adult beverage, and we just were able to converse and shoot the shit for a little bit. And just like Joe Montana, another really good guy, funny, great sense of humor, very articulate, very personable, humble. And so that was quite a thrill to be able to talk to him. And the thing that really amazed me about Steve Young is how big he was. You know, you watch these quarterbacks on TV and they look small because of the monsters that they're playing with, you know, their offensive linemen. But Steve Young was all of 6'3", probably 215 pounds and jacked. I mean, he was put together, good size. It kind of reminded me of Bart Starr, who I had met a couple of years earlier out in Nebraska. He was speaking at a fundraiser that we had at Wayne State College. And I was absolutely shocked how big Bart Starr was. You know, he was 6'3", 6'3 and a half. And when I was watching him as a little dude on TV when he played for the Packers, I thought he was a little guy. So it's really amazing how big these quarterbacks are. And that just tells you how big the rest of the guys are they're playing with. And then the third 49er that I met was Bill Walsh, the late, great Bill Walsh. And he came to Santa Rosa Junior College to be the keynote speaker at a fundraiser we were doing. And so he sat at the head table for dinner and right next to me. And here I am with Bill Walsh talking football and quarterbacks and offense. And he's chalking up X's and O's on a napkin. I mean, how cool is that? So that's three Hall of Famers, three 49er Hall of Famers, Joe Montana, Steve Young, and Bill Walsh. And just great memories. And I'll never forget the day that Joe Montana was in the stadium when I worked out his kids and trained his two sons in quarterback play. That's Flashback Friday. This is QB Unfiltered. And remember, always throw the ball short to guys who can score. See ya.